Robin Williams' final days, the silent battle Hollywood never saw coming. Before the world lost Robin Williams, he whispered a truth almost no one heard. A truth buried beneath decades of laughter, hidden behind the whirlwind brilliance of his characters, and concealed even from those who believed they understood him best. For so long, audiences saw a man whose energy felt limitless, an artist whose improvisations were so astonishing they seemed to defy the boundaries of the human mind. But behind that electric exterior, something was quietly unraveling. This is not the story of a Hollywood career. This is the story of a silent battle, fought privately, painfully, and tragically misunderstood until it was too late. In his final months, Robin began leaving fragments of fear in his conversations, jokes delivered with trembling undertones, sentences that broke halfway through, confessions whispered only to those closest to him. Something is wrong. Something is changing. He felt himself slipping, losing control of the very part of himself that had defined him for decades. His mind. Doctors misdiagnosed him. Friends sensed something was wrong but didn't know what. Even Robin tried to make sense of the storm inside him, trying desperately to hold on to the man he once was. What he never knew, what no one knew, was that a rare neurological disease had already begun rewriting him from within. This is the hidden truth behind Robin Williams' final days, the truth Hollywood never saw coming, the world that saw only the light. For years, Robin Williams was more than an actor or comedian. He was a symbol of warmth and comfort, wrapped inside a cyclone of improvisation so fast and vivid it felt like watching pure magic. His characters didn't just entertain, they connected. They made people feel understood, healed, uplifted. To audiences, Robin was the friend you wished you had. To Hollywood, he was a phenomenon. But the world that adored him saw only the brilliance. What they didn't see was the shadow quietly forming behind the scenes. Fame had lifted him to extraordinary heights, but it also placed pressure on him that left little room for vulnerability. The industry expected him to be endlessly funny, endlessly spontaneous, an entertainer who could outrun darkness by sheer speed. For much of his life, comedy was his way of outrunning the darkness. He once said laughter was the only thing fast enough to stay ahead of the parts of his mind he didn't want to face. But by the late 2000s, something began shifting. Hollywood was changing. The industry Robin once dominated evolved in ways he struggled to recognize. Blockbusters replaced character-driven films. Studios became cautious. Social media demanded transparency and perfection. And the roles Robin loved, roles that allowed him to blend humor with soul, became harder to find. Still, he kept working. Still, he gave every performance his heart. What no one knew was that something else was happening beneath the surface. Subtle changes began creeping in. Forgotten lines, brief confusion, moments in which anxiety surged for no reason at all. Friends noticed Robin seemed different, but they couldn't define how. The smallest cracks were forming in a mind that once moved faster than any writer could imagine. He chalked it up to aging, stress, exhaustion. But the truth was far more devastating. Cracks in the storm. To understand the tragedy that unfolded, we must remember that Robin Williams lived much of his life inside a whirlwind. His rise was not slow or predictable. It was explosive. On stage, he seemed to channel entire worlds at once. Words, characters, and ideas poured from him with impossible speed. In his early career, especially during Mork and Mindy, Robin became a force of nature Hollywood had never seen before. The industry tried to shape him, contain him, script him. But Robin couldn't be contained. His mind was too fast, too brilliant, too alive. Throughout the 1980s and 1990s, he built a legacy unmatched by any performer of his era. Dead Poets Society, Aladdin, Good Morning, Vietnam, Mrs. Doubtfire, Good Will Hunting. Roles that defined generations. Roles that carried pieces of Robin himself. But even then, glimpses of something darker surfaced. During the filming of Insomnia, Robin played a role stripped of humor. Crew members noticed that he seemed oddly comfortable inside the silence, as if turning himself off brought a strange relief. At the time, no one understood what this meant. Not even him. Years later, the meaning would become painfully clear. The invisible descent. By 2013, while filming The Crazy Ones, Robin began struggling with his memory. Lines that once came effortlessly required repetition. Scenes he should have breezed through demanded retakes. Anxiety sparked without cause. Panic rose during moments that should have felt ordinary. He tried explaining it to friends, but the words felt inadequate. How do you describe losing control of the very mind that shaped your identity? His wife watched him fluctuate between clarity and confusion, calm and terror. She saw him fighting, to maintain the persona the world expected, even when his hands trembled and thoughts scattered. Then came the misdiagnosis. Doctors told him he had Parkinson's disease. A diagnosis that explained some symptoms but not all. It didn't explain the hallucinations, the paranoia, the insomnia, the thunderbolt fear. Robin knew something deeper was wrong, but medicine had no answers for him. Still he fought. He tried new treatments, changed his diet, exercised, meditated, worked with specialists. He pushed himself through scenes even when he no longer felt like himself. Friends who saw him during these months recalled moments of heartbreaking contrast. Seconds where the old spark returned, followed by sudden shutdowns of confusion or panic, as though someone kept switching off the light inside him. In his final months, the symptoms intensified. He told his wife he felt like he was losing himself. He said the world didn't look right. He said he couldn't trust his own mind. There are few tragedies as profound as watching someone so brilliant become lost inside their own body. But the reason behind that nightmare would only be discovered after he was gone. The truth revealed. In the days following Robin Williams' death, media outlets rushed to frame the story. Depression, addiction, emotional collapse. But none of these explanations fit the truth quietly documented in medical files and confirmed by autopsy. The true cause had a name few people knew. Lewy body dementia. One of the cruelest neurological disorders known to medicine. A disease so aggressive that specialists later said Robin had one of the worst cases they had ever seen. Lewy body dementia does not simply affect memory or movement. It attacks every part of the brain responsible for emotion, perception, thought, and control. Creates hallucinations, fear, confusion, insomnia, tremors, paranoia, and emotional instability. It also moves fast. And in Robin's case, it moved with shocking speed. The diagnosis explained everything. The confusion, the terror, the cognitive decline, the hallucinations, the sense of losing himself. Robin never had the chance to understand what was happening to him. He was fighting an invisible enemy without a name. When medical experts reviewed his case, they described his situation as living inside a neurodegenerative hurricane. It was not depression. It was not weakness. It was not a lack of hope. It was a terminal illness no one recognized in time. The revelation reframed his entire final chapter. It removed the stigma. It removed the blame. It revealed that Robin had fought with extraordinary courage against a disease he never knew he had. What his story teaches us. Robin Williams' final journey speaks to a truth many people avoid. Some battles are silent. Some suffering hides behind laughter. Some storms rage inside even the brightest souls. His story reveals how misunderstood neurological disorders can be, especially when they mimic mental health conditions. It exposes the failures of a system that often labels sufferers with the closest diagnosis instead of seeking deeper answers. Robin's life was one of kindness, generosity, and brilliance. His art brought comfort to millions. He healed people he never met. He made strangers feel understood. He reminded generations that vulnerability is not weakness, and that humor can be a form of survival. That is why his final chapter resonates so deeply. It is a reminder that even the strongest spirits can be fighting unseen wars. His story urges us to listen closer, to look deeper, to check on those who make us laugh, to offer compassion to those who seem overwhelmed, even if they can't explain why. Robin Williams did not lose a battle to sadness. He fought a storm no one recognized, and he fought it with everything he had. The legacy that lives on. When the noise fades, when headlines, speculation, and misunderstandings disappear, the memory that remains is simple. A man who gave the world pieces of his heart in every character he played. A man whose films still feel alive because they carry the parts of him even disease could not erase. The wisdom of Dead Poets Society. The warmth of Good Will Hunting. The electricity of Aladdin. The humanity of Good Morning Vietnam. The comfort of Mrs. Doubtfire. These moments are untouched by time. Robin never truly left us. His story reminds us to cherish the laughter, to show compassion, to understand that even the brightest souls can walk through darkness unseen. Most importantly, it teaches us that legends are still human, and their pain deserves understanding, not judgment. Robin Williams' life was not defined by his final chapter. It was defined by the decades of light he brought into the world. If you close your eyes, you can still hear his voice, gentle, mischievous, full of that familiar sparkle, encouraging us to seize the day, to embrace the magic in life, and to hold on to hope even in the darkest moments. Some stories live on because they are felt, not because they are told. Robin's story is one of them. And now you know the truth behind the silence.